Peace, fam. All right, this is chess and pie. It's elementary. Okay, so this is an email that I sent out to several people in the chess community. I wish I could send it to more people because I wanted to reach as many ears and eyes as possible. I'm just going to go through it. I made a few alterations to this and also got it in print form. I printed it out so that I could mail it to other people, but here it is. I just want to give it to you real fast for anybody who loves chess and wants to get the latest in chess and the clearest understanding of chess evaluations as far as piece value. All right, chess and pie. It's elementary. Deep in the mind of the spirit divine, the ideal for what we call chess was conceived. It soon came to birth, manifested on earth, the design for which had been decided on high. It will be based on the unending circle, at best. Chess is an expression of pie. That's something I wrote there. One might conclude that I have no right to speak with such certainty on this matter, but I would attempt to justify myself by revealing the foundation on which chess was built upon. I began by stating my case upon a formula that came apparent to me as I was creating what I called the L7 chess lesson. My love for the game of chess made me want to teach others how to play it. Looking for the best way to explain to others the most important ideas in chess caused me to look at chess from a mathematical point of view. It became clear to me that everything in chess had a numerical value. This included the pieces, the squares, and each tempi, or each opportunity a player has to move a piece. I sought for a way to accurately determine these values. First, I decided to use what had become the accepted numerical value given to each pawn, that being 1. Next, I determined that piece mobility was the most accurate measure for determining its value. I decided that the rule or formula must be that the number of squares that a piece can reach from the center of an empty board times the numerical value of a square equals the numerical value of the piece. That would be the formula. Using this formula, a square would have the numerical value of 0.33, as a pawn can move to no more than one of 3 different squares on 80% of its possible moves in a chess game. This, of course, was not always the case, as the rules have been changed, allowing the pawn to advance 2 spaces forward on its initial move. This unfortunate change led to the making of another rule. We call it in passing, but it's en passant. I think that's the French term, which was never meant to be and takes away from the purity of the game. I said all that to say that pawns should only have 3 squares that they could possibly reach on the move. That, of course, affects the formula. About a year after coming up with the formula, it came to me that whoever created chess did so with pi in mind. They were squaring the circle, whether intentionally or not. That's what they were doing. They created pieces and gave them movement based upon their theme of squaring the circle. I could see that each square must have the numerical value of 0.314. And when I began using that value, the values of the pieces came into harmony. The pieces should relate to one another in some recognizable way. There should be some clear order to the movement and mobility. This order can be seen and demonstrated in the formula that became clear to me. I have listed the pieces and their numerical values below so that you can see for yourself how the pieces relate to one another numerically. The relationship between 1 queen as opposed to 1 rook plus 1 bishop is obvious. This declares that the values must be true. However, the relationship between 1 bishop plus 1 pawn as opposed to 2 knights had not been clearly seen by the chess community before the formula made the connection. I understand how difficult it must be for some to accept this formula, as it seems too simple to be correct, but that is exactly what makes it so beautiful. Others will fight this because I am not a GM or some other well-known, highly regarded person. I'm okay with that because the formula speaks for itself and will eventually win the day. See, I have a typo up there for too simply. It should be 200. Okay, the formula speaks to the maximum value of the pieces. It does not try to determine which piece is the most important in every conceivable position. There will be positions where exchanging one queen for one rook and one bishop will prove to be an even swap, but there will also be positions where that exchange will give one side an overwhelming advantage. The same can be said for the exchange of one bishop and one pawn for two knights. Larry Kaufman addresses what has been commonly called material imbalances. I listened to him on the subject and would advise anyone interested to do the same. Right, because he really went into exchanges and what type of positions made what exchanges valuable, to the person that was trying to initiate the exchange. So he does that in dealing with every position, because it depends on where the pieces are. You need to give up your queen to stop a pawn from queening, and that will be advantageous to you to winning. And so all kinds of sacrifices in different positions, but we're not talking about that. And Larry Kaufman covers that very well. He's much more intelligent and a higher, stronger chess player than I am. We're not even in the same ballpark. So people who want to discuss that, they should turn to his work on that. You know what I'm saying? And I doubt if they can do better than he did on it. But we're just talking about the value of the pieces from the outset of looking at the game and the basic exchanges and how you can use the exchanges and what should be exchanged to your advantage. All right, so let's look at this here. A queen reaches 27 squares from the center of an empty board. We use those terms to get a clearer understanding of how pieces move. So 27 times 0.314 equals 8.78. That's the value of your queen. That's what your queen is worth in numbers. And that's how that's that formula, the number of squares that a piece can reach from the center of an empty board, all right, times the value of each square. That's how you get, that's the formula. Whatever that adds up to is what that piece is worth. So the queen is reaching 27 squares, is worth 8.478. The rook is hitting 14 squares, even though it's doing it from any square, not just the square from the center of an empty board. It's doing it from any square. And when people look at rooks and bishops and the different way that they move, they say, well, a rook can checkmate with just a king, checkmate a sole king, and a bishop can't do that with a sole king. Bishop and a king can't checkmate a king. That's the uniqueness of each piece in each position. That's a whole other position. We're talking about the value of the piece in and of itself, what the piece is worth. We're not talking about what it's potentially worth, like if the position is this. No, because that's too, again, Larry Kaufman covers that, that type of thing, not this. This is just looking at, and what we're talking about here, many GMs and world champions have addressed the subject. So it may not be important to you, but if you're teaching somebody how to play chess, they need to know these things, because giving up two knights for a bishop and a pawn is a good exchange. It's a fair exchange. You need to know how to use your bishops to get the most out of them. You know what I'm saying? To make that an overwhelming advantage, you need to know how to advance your pawns and how to use your structure to get the most out of that. But let me go on. So, see the bishop, you see the knight 8 squares, the king at 8 squares. The knight hit 8 squares, and so does the king. The knight moves 2 steps at a time, but it moves in a very awkward fashion. It makes 1 step like a bishop, 1 step like a rook, or 1 step like a rook, and then 1 like a bishop. So it makes 2 steps. Advances 2 spaces on every move, but it does so in a very awkward fashion. Now we've learned how to use the knight, and so that's one thing, but it don't take away from what a knight is worth. You know what I'm saying? And the king works in a much more organized fashion than a knight. So much more organized fashion than a knight. But I digress. The pawn, you see the pawn, okay. So I won't read all these off to you. You see, one rook and a rook and a bishop equals a queen. And so you see the numbers on it. I got all the numbers there for you. All right. The formula demonstrates how the value of each square is 0.314, which makes it clear that the board is worth 20.09. The opening moves of a chess game feature each side trying to gain some type of an advantage. Players of approximately equal strength rarely get much of an advantage out of the opening. The material will remain about equal, as will the space to a greater or lesser degree. Now and again, one player will concede an advantage in material to gain a structural advantage. Concessions are made because the player believes that they can mount an effective attack as a result. An effective attack can be executed by deploying attackers faster than an effective defense can be mounted. This brings us to another very important aspect of the game of chess, and that will be time. Time, or tempo, is very often the deciding factor in a chess game. When two average strength players, or like equally strength players, face one another, a point is usually reached where one of them can strike the other's camp quicker than the other can adequately respond. Even more often than that, it happens that an endgame is reached where one player enjoys a single tempi lead that proves to be decisive. A single tempi lead now. Still, a tempo is a tempo is a tempo, which brings me to the question, what advantage does White have at the beginning of every chess game? White has the right to strike out of the enemy camp first. That right very often does not result in an immediate material or space advantage. Now, it is difficult to prove what the generic value of a tempo is, and having acknowledged that, I give it the same numerical value of 1 square, 0.314. It is essentially worth the value of the square that the piece being moved lands on. We're talking about what the tempi is worth each time you move. It makes no difference what piece is being moved nor how far that piece travels. One tempo is worth 0.314. And like many other things in chess, the importance of each tempo grows as the game progresses. Small advantages loom large late in games. Some people will be tempted to place a higher value on a certain square or on a piece because of the position it is in. This, however, would be a mistake. A pawn or a piece that is applying checkmate is still only worth what it is worth, even though it has risen in importance due to the skillful moves made by the player. So no matter what the pawn is doing, as long as it's a pawn, and that's all it's worth. It's not worth anything more until it advances to the 8th rank and you actually change it for another piece. A square is always worth the same thing, even though controlling center squares can be very advantageous. All right? So all squares are worth the same thing. However, the importance of controlling the center squares can decrease as play shifts toward weak pawns and squares. So as you start focusing on attacking pawns that's sitting on a weak square, or your focus leaves the center because that play leaves the center squares aren't as important anymore, but they're always the same, worth the same amount, 0.314. So people think, okay, these squares on the end file on A or H aren't worth the same as D and E. That's just incorrect. It's just they're all worth 0.314. And at certain times, different squares are more important because players shifted to them. All right. Knowing the formula is not the end all to understanding chess, but it can lead to a greater understanding of chess. As I review games played by the world's strongest players, it seems that many of them know instinctively what the formula has revealed to me. They treat their bishops like they know how valuable they are, some more so than others. I hope that everyone will begin to look at chess with the formula in mind, and if one does this, they will eventually begin to see the light. I have put more time into this than I wanted to, and I'm sure I've taken up more of your time than you wanted to give me. I hope that you understand how much the formula means to me and what it should mean to the chess community. I am convinced that if the chess community makes a big fuss over the formula, more people will become interested in chess, and they and the existing community will be better for it. For this reason, I ask you to share this with many other people, with many others in the community, and give them a chance to weigh in on the matter. Please and thank you. All right, so there's my name down there. I'm my diametrical on the sites that I play, chess.com, ICC, and the free internet chess server, Baba's. All right, I hope you got something out of that. That's chess and pie, man. It's elementary to me. All right. Peace.